Mayor Richard Thomas, former mayor of the city of Mount Vernon. Sir, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and request to come and sit with us about lots of stuff that is happening in your city.
Thank you
Thank
for the time and always open to talk about the issues.
What are the issues, sir? What do you see in Mount Vernon at the moment that you are concerned with?
Well, right now I see a lot of people that are deeply concerned about the direction of our city and the state of our city. And I'm hearing more and more from homeowners that are very upset to see equipment from other communities coming in to help out. And everybody's asking the question, what's going on with Mount Vernon's money? And the latest news that broke about the PPP stuff, it's more concern about the state of the city and what's really happening.
Are you surprised at all with what's going on?
I'm more disappointed than surprised because by now we should know a lot more about how to help people and not, enable people to help themselves.
Any, we've been hearing things, that the current administration is not forthcoming with cooperating with the feds. Are you surprised any past behavior parallel with the current behavior? Do you think that there is some we don't want to cooperate, or are they forthcoming with cooperation with the feds?
I think that the news that broke about what was said by the mayor indicating that no one should cooperate with them is, eerily consistent with my experience with her in the past. When the city received a federal subpoena back when I was mayor, I didn't find out about it for a couple of months. And after we found out about it and learned that there were significant deficiencies in the response, the response I got from her at the time when she was planning commissioner was, it's none of my business. And, she handled it with her staff. But meanwhile, the law department was completely shut out. So it seems consistent with what was said and done in the past. And that's something that doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I did speak with the mayor yesterday. I spoke with her yesterday at maybe around noon, asking her about what's going on. Her statement was, look, Ru, at this point, this is just rumors. I have no confirmation. The feds have not contacted me. Westchester County has not contacted me. We don't know. What you reported this morning that two individuals from the city hall had turned themselves in is not correct. She said, as a matter of fact, they're right behind me working. Was this a surprise to you, sir?
Look, what I know about process and due process is that the feds at least give you due process. I have my own beliefs about other jurisdictions, and I have facts to demonstrate that other jurisdictions don't follow due process. But what I do know is that if the information at the time that the mayor had was, hey, nothing has happened yet, then that's the information she gave you at the time. But what I know is that if the feds are investigating the PPP scam that many have been discussing and have raised concerns about, then, the people that did benefit from it, they need to demonstrate that they were justified. If they were not justified, they need to be held accountable. And while the feds are here, I hope that they look at the $100 million we discussed on this very show a year ago. When I raised these issues about missing millions of federal dollars and how the documents around them are suspect or don't exist at all, those millions of dollars have been asked to be repaid to the federal government. And there's a lot more where that came from. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole thing unfolds. But what I do know is that there are some large issues, especially with the federal dollars in Mount Vernon, and they need to be addressed.
You think there is a possibility of a connection between the $100 million that are missing and the PPP investigation?
Well,
where is the connection?
Look, if they're here looking at the PPP, they may as well take another look at something else. And as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of documentation to demonstrate that the feds they already demanded $3 million back from the city of Mount Vernon for the same reason. You took our money, you didn't use it for the right purposes, give it back. So, $10,000 is important, but heck, you got $3 million already on the table they're seeking back from the taxpayers, something that, in the past we could have dealt with it, but now given COVID, it's going to be very complicated. So what I do know is that if the feds are looking at the city, they should take a hard look at the problems that exist in the Urban Renewal Agency.
Well, Mayor, very often investigation starts for one reason.
Yeah.
They take a whole different life, a whole different path.
Yep.
So we don't know. Maybe somebody who knows about those 100 million will come back and say, listen, let's make a deal.
And what I do know is that the taxpayers need to be protected. And there's a way to protect them that does not involve covering up old lies and old schemes for the old guard. And right now, especially now when, property taxes are already high, there's no reason to put an extra burden on the back of the people.
So if this stands to be true, this federal investigation stands to be true, then the people of Mount Vernon were ripping off the taxpayers of Mount Vernon and the country.
And this is where, again, you have to just look at the basic fundamental problem of greed. And if, again, the people that obtained these dollars did it for greed, they definitely deserve to be held accountable. And if they did it because they legitimately had a business that was struggling, then you know what? They're entitled to the help, because there are many businesses out there that struggle right now to this day through COVID. I mean, movie theaters, they just reopened, and it's going to be very hard for them to get back on their feet. If you own a restaurant, especially a restaurant in this region, it's very hard because all of the different restrictions, and they change all the time. So, I just know that I'm hoping that we don't have as bad of a problem as it appears. But when it comes to the workers and the people that have been reported as in the crosshairs of the federal government, my hope is that those that have ripped off the taxpayer royally in Mount Vernon over the years are held accountable for their actions when it comes to the missing millions in the Urban Renewal Agency. That's my hope.
Well, Mayor, while you were the mayor of Mount Vernon, did you have any idea that you had so many business people in the city hall and police department? Now, I'm not accusing anyone, but we hear there is about 100 or more people involved. News 12 released the information yesterday. They confirmed this investigation. But did you have an idea that you had about 25 police officers, I don't know how many city employees, fire department, that were business people in Mount Vernon?
Actually, yes, there are a lot of workers that legitimately have second businesses outside of work, and they're legally entitled to it. Again, whether or not they complied with the paperwork of the program, that's something that remains to be seen. I just know that there are other issues that exist here that merit a very deep dive. And you're talking about at least $3 million that has already been asked by the federal government to be repaid to them from the taxpayers of the city. There's a whole lot more that they have already asked for. And my hope is that they really focus on the deeper problems so that we can get a better Mount Vernon. And I want to just amplify that point about a better Mount Vernon for a moment, because on the ballot this November are 4 choices for a charter revision. My hope is that everybody out there votes for the charter revision to revive Mount Vernon. It's going to bring the structure and the changes we need so that all these schemes and scams that you've heard of can be fundamentally dealt with.
Now, Mayor, lots of people from Mount Vernon, I have spoken to some business people in Mount Vernon. They were rejected. Those loans,
Yep.
those loans were not approved. And now we look at the other side of the token. Tons of people in the city of Mount Vernon talk about the city hall, police department, and fire department. Somehow they found a loophole in approval for this PPP. We also know that the mayor had a link for this program. That link has been removed. Do you think there is any connection with that removal and the investigation?
Well, that's where, one of the first words I used when we started this conversation was enable.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that City Hall did not enable the issue to become worse than it appears. So what I know is, as this issue unfolds and more information comes forward, we got to remember we can reject all of the lies, we can reject all the rhetoric, and we can get real results by voting for the charter revision. The charter revision is way overdue. Our charter as a city has not been amended properly since it was crafted in 1892. Mount Vernon is the only city in the state of New York to operate in unconstitutional fashion. We have a board of estimate, which gives the city council more than one vote on measures. So New York City, they changed their structure back in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And we need to make that transition, because this is what the problem is with governance. You have a great structure, but it lends itself to too much political corruption. And that's what you're referencing when you talk about that link that was promoted by the mayor, suggesting that certain folks go after the PPP loan program. But for some reason, businesses, and I've spoken to many businesses, and I've helped contact banks, urging banks to support local businesses during the crisis. But it's a surprise that that some of these people were able to get it over some other businesses in the city. It could have been speed, but I go back to the question of who enabled it. And that's where the investigation will ultimately answer. Who enabled this issue?
Now, we know a few names of possible people that are involved in this. And one of the individuals is a good friend of the mayor. I think we both know who I'm talking about. Do you?
Mount Vernon's a small community. Everybody's a friend, everybody's a relative. So that could be half a dozen people.
No, there is close friends, and there is people that we know. One of the person is a close friend of hers. Do you think that the mayor really had no idea of what was going on?
It's hard to tell. I without knowing exactly.
You know her well.
What I know is it's hard to tell, because, I spent a lot of my time focusing on solving problems and dealing with issues. I made it a point to be hands-on and to support people on the front line, especially our police, fire, and public works, and really brought a lot of energy into recreation. I cannot tell you her personal conversations with people that are close to her. I know that my focus was go to work, make sure I say my prayers, kiss my babies before I go out the door, and ultimately get home to put my son and daughter to sleep. So I can only tell you that from my experience, it's very hard for me to say, her conversations, because she has a very different approach to her social life. My social life was very, very, very different than hers. And that's where I can only tell you that she may have had that luxury to be in places with her friends because she doesn't have young kids at home that have to go to bed. So I'm just telling you that it seems like she may have more time to spend with her friends than I know I did.
Perhaps I didn't phrase my question proper. I did not ask if you knew about her private conversations.
Okay.
What I ask is, what do you think, your personal opinion, that she was not aware at all about what was going on?
I think that that they talk a lot, and I think they do too much talking, to be frank. And what I do think that is there had to be some kind of discussion with that group of people, be it the people inside her office or herself specifically, because she posted the link on her page. And I think there at least was some form of discussion as to what is going on, because you wouldn't take the link down if you didn't have an idea.
Now, Mayor, as you know, we are live on Facebook and we have people engaged. So I have to, ask a question in between what we are discussing. Now, some of the questions are things that I have no idea what they are talking about.
Sure.
I have an idea. So if you do have and you want to address it, then you're more than welcome. This question comes from Chris Schliewet. I don't know if I said his name correct. What is the mayor's opinion on Johnny's Pizza wheeling and dealing in Mount Vernon? Do you know what this person is talking about, sir?
Johnny's Pizza, the 100-year-old or institution of pizza in Mount Vernon?
But I have no idea. I'm just asking the questions as they come.
All right. So I'm familiar with Johnny's Pizza. I eat there. I consider them family. And what I can tell you is this: getting a permit in Mount Vernon is a problem. When I was a mayor, I made it a point to make it as easy as possible to get a permit. We developed a system that produced a permit either within the same day or within 7 days of your submission. And we created different approaches for people to get their permit. They could use their own consultant, and their own consultant could sign off on it and we would accept it. But there was a process for that. That system was dismantled when I left office. They took it away. All the revenue that was being generated by the building department, don't know where it's going now. What I hear is horror story after horror story. What I'm aware of is that Johnny's Pizza attempted to get a permit multiple times. They were told by City Hall to proceed under the emergency directives. And guess what? They followed suit. They listened to City Hall, from what I understand. And then once a certain figure did not get their way, or a political back was not scratched, or a palm was not greased, which is something that I firmly rejected and worked to root out of the buildings department in City Hall, those bad elements seem to have come back. So Johnny's wheeling and dealing, that's not wheeling and dealing. They were trying to do their job, their duty, and Mount Vernon should be doing everything to keep Johnny's open and remain in Mount Vernon. It'll betray our history and our tradition as a city, as a people of Mount Vernon, to see Johnny's close and move elsewhere. That's a crime, to lose Johnny's Pizza. So I think that what everybody should do is nudge City Hall to cut the crap and give Johnny's their permit so they can sell more pizza and employ more people here in the city of Mount Vernon.
Now, talking about permits, the name of the of the businessman in Mount Vernon escapes my memory now. Not far from City Hall, they have some kind of a deli store. They sell chicken, Jamaican food, and across the street they have a parking lot where they do business from. The current administration shut that place down. And do you know who I'm talking about, sir?
Yeah, you're talking about Mangleville. You're talking about Freddys' yard.
Yeah, Freddy, correct.
That building inspector was totally out of line. He said on camera he shut him down because he didn't like the way he looked. I mean, how much more racist or like Donald Trump can you be?
But he wasn't really talking for himself. I have
Was he? Who was he talking for?
No, I have actually a video. He
Okay.
was talking to somebody in the city hall.
Okay.
Yeah, he was kind of mimicking. Actually, he said that I really don't see much wrong here, but seems like the person across the line just wanted the place shut down. And they even mentioned something about the Jewish coming into Mount Vernon. You heard about that?
Look, what I know is with the shutdown of Freddys is serious. And when you shut down a business, you have to have cause. In some circumstances, some businesses do not have their paperwork correct, and some do. In this case, Freddie had all of his paperwork correct. He had a permit from the city to operate, and for them to just unilaterally shut him down, that's a big problem, and it shows, in my opinion, bullying, targeting, discrimination, and it's something that just goes back to the political retaliation that we want to move away from. We don't want that in our city, but obviously it's continuing, and it continues to happen in our city, and it's wrong.
Now, Mayor, I have to ask you some hard questions. I have you here, and I have to play the devil's advocate. I have to ask from this side and that side.
Sure.
Didn't you have a problem with Freddie during your administration?
So there was an issue with Freddie, and there were attempts, and this is where the system performs as designed. Our approach was when we created the coalition to go out and invest and look at crime and grime and do quality of life checks. We didn't immediately lead with "you're shut down." We said, here's a list of issues that you must address. And you have a timeline to come talk to us about what is it going to take you to fix it. We went through a series of visits with Freddie when I first became mayor in 2016. And over that period of time, he ignored each invitation to sit down. He was being egged on by council members and other, characters out there that said, no, fight him, fight him, fight him. He's wrong, fight him. And I want to make this very clear. Freddie will attest to this. I never shut him down. He went to court and filed an action against us for giving him the violations, and that led to the shutdown. So yes, we took steps to shut him down in conjunction with that court action that he initiated. But the things that were a problem in Freddie's deli, which is no longer there, were fire hazards, or all sorts of other code problems that were well documented and ultimately addressed. And Freddie, to this day, acknowledges that, we could have handled things differently, which is why I consistently say the approach is we come with the warning, then we give a violation. And then after that violation is not addressed, we then take the step to either shut you down or give you one last chance. So my process was just that. So Freddie, he was doing much better business after he corrected his issues. And to this day, his place became a real destination as a result of the improvements that he made.
Now, Mayor, what about the Cupcakes Factory?
Same thing. They weren't legally shut down. They were nudged to get a backflow preventer on their space, because if they didn't have a backflow preventer attached to their pipes, that means toilet water or boiler water could get into the same water that they use to make cupcakes. They were also told to get more sinks, because they were using the same sink to wash their hands as they were preparing the food. That's a violation. So we didn't go in there like gangbusters saying shut down. We said, hey, you got these problems. It's the personalities that came through and made it into a circus. And that's when we said, you know what? It took on a life of its own. They ultimately took actions to correct the problems they had. most of them without a permit. But guess what? We worked with them to stay open. That's what happened. Those are the facts.
Mayor, again, I'm talking to you, looking down. I don't want you to think that I'm being disrespectful to you, but I'm monitoring.
No, you're not being disrespectful.
Yeah, I'm just monitoring the conversation. We have somebody here by name Khalid Dassam. We need you back, Mayor.
Wow.
And some people that I have spoken with on the streets of Mount Vernon are saying, we want you back. Now, what is your vision for the near future? I've been here, Zooms. I don't know if it's true, but I think if it is, you would tell me. Any political aspirations for the near future, sir?
The first political aspiration is charter revision. And I mean that, and I first want to pause and say thank you to all those that wish me well and want me back. I wish I could be in a different position to help the people, especially through this crisis. And there are so many different things that I would have done to make sure that we had continuity, we had support for our businesses, and not the scrum that we're seeing now. But when it comes to the aspiration, I just want to point this out because this is a legacy piece. Charter revision. Everybody talked about it. Nobody did it. Everybody talked about the bridges. Nobody did it. The bridges being the MTA bridges that are all being replaced because of me. Memorial Field. No matter how much people want to try and deny it and take credit, guess what? The field is going to be rebuilt. God bless all those that are finally coming around to get that done. Thank you. That's why we had to fight. It's for our kids. Montefiore Hospital. It's going to stay open from what I understand. And I'm hoping that they expand it as they should. And we can see more vertical farming or green farming over on Sanford Boulevard with the other facility that we're going to build. But my aspiration is to see Mount Vernon thrive. And whatever I can do to get that done, I believe it is going to happen through the revision of our charter. Why? It's going to add transparency. It's going to bring accountability to public officials. And you're going to be able to see where your money's going. And that's very important. So I know that right now my focus is to get everybody to focus on this revision of our city charter, vote for all 4 measures that are on the back of the ballot on November 3rd. And don't just go vote for president, vote straight down the ballot for the best people to represent us.
Mayor, we're going to get to the elections pretty soon. Okay. But right now, we want a direct answer for the direct question. Okay, what people want to know is in the near future. This is what one of our people that are watching us say. Ru, can you ask the mayor if you will run for office in the near future? I know county legislative seat, it's opening up. What they want to know if the mayor or former mayor, Richard Thomas, has intention of running in the near future for the elected position. It's a simple yes, no.
Not right now. That door is a door that can be opened, but there's a lot of talk about me running for other seats. County legislature is not a seat that I'm interested in.
What about comptroller?
That seat is a very important seat. It's a seat that can really help the city rise, and it can really make a difference in people's lives. That door and that question of me running for controller, I can't answer that right now. But what I do know is that the controller we have to get rid of. And I want to just point out for one moment for those listening that recently the New York State Controller issued a report. And I have identified a bunch of things in there that are very important for you and everybody to know. And there's one point in there, and this is important because I know that the state of the city is going to try and lie on me. So I want to put this point to you and all those that are listening. The finances of the city, and this is according to the state controller, got messed up under Maureen Walker. on page 26 of the document, the bottom two paragraphs, notes 10 and 11, they go into the obstruction that I faced when I was mayor from the controller's office. And on the top of page 27 of the controller's report, and I'm being specific because I want everybody to go and look at this. It says that the city's audit was not prohibited to conclude because of the problems in the urban renewal agency. The city's audit could not conclude because the controller's office would not cooperate with the audit and provide the information. Now, what does that mean? That means that the city controller would not provide information to complete the audit. And that goes back to 2016 and 2017. What I did, and everybody just take this step by step. This is a bit of a long answer, but I want you to receive it because it goes to show you that I did everything in my power to do the right thing for the people. I went to the city's bank and they called the cops on me. And that was after me going to court for 3 years to get a court order to gain access to those books. And they still told me no, called the cops on me while I was mayor. So now, so think about it. The state controller says the city controller blocked me from getting the books. The bank later called the cops on me for trying to get access to the books. This mayor right now has the power to go to the bank and get the books. I got the 2 court orders. Her name is on the account. She has the authority to do it. So why is everybody faking? How come they just won't go forward and get the information and fix it? They fought me from fixing it. They went that length to do everything. So I want to make that point because it verifies the conspiracy against Richard Thomas. And I want to make that point clear because, you know, me running for controller would be a very big deal. And right now I haven't made that decision, but I do know that there's a whole group of people that do not want the truth about Mount Vernon's finances to come out.
And maybe they have an interest and a motive.
I mean, money. That's all I can tell you. Money does a lot of strange things.
So running for controller position is not out of the question.
It's not the question right now.
But it's not out of the question.
I mean, it's an option that I think a lot of people want me to explore, and it's an option that I think that will be continue to be evaluated.
A question for Mr. Khalid Dassan. Will Thomas be voting to re-elect our great President Trump? Well, I'm asking. Look, I'm asking the question as the question is posed.
Oh man, no. I'm on Team Blue. I'm voting for Biden, and you know, I want to see Biden and Kamala, and I want to see that team, and I also want to see you know, America really move beyond the all of the stuff that's been holding us back.
But you know, Mayor,
I will acknowledge that there are things that President Trump did right, and he did right by cutting the cost of drugs for medical care. You know, dropping that by 34% is a big deal. So all the seniors feel that in their wallet. That's a big deal. And the other things that he has done to try and get the economy going, you know, I agree on some of his economic principles, but the racism, the sexism, the, you know, encouraging white supremacy, all that has to go. We can't have that in our leader. And it's something that I know I don't agree with, but at the end of the day, I'm looking for America to really step it up and put an end to this coronavirus. And I think that Biden has a much better plan for getting that done.
Now, Mayor, many of us talk about issues. We come on social media, we tweet, we talk among friends about problems, ways to resolve issues, but we felt the most important thing, which is to cast your vote.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we motivate people to come out and vote. It don't matter who they vote for. To me, yes, I'm inclined to support one side versus the other, but at the end of the day is you need to come out and vote. In 2016, a terrible mistake was made. We took it for granted that the results would be this way, but they were that way. But Trump did not elect himself. He was elected. And most of those that did not believe in Trump or that he was the best man for the job just did not come out and vote. So if you want to count, you need to vote.
Yeah, you got to vote. And in Mount Vernon, New York, being so close to Pennsylvania, our energy should be focused on phone banking and knocking on doors in Pennsylvania. We need people in Pennsylvania to come out and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to become our president and next vice president of the United States. But we also need them to vote for senators and Congress members that are going to vote for our principles and our values. And I saw the best sign I ever saw. I saw a lawn sign that said, "I'm a Republican, not an idiot." So I want those values to be voted for, not something that's just going to vote for ego, that's going to vote for self-benefit, to continue the racism. We don't want none of that. We want to vote for something that's going to lift our spirits, lift us higher as a country.
We just saw today an article on Low HUD about a fire truck, a ladder that collapsed, bent, and by doing so, put the lives of our firefighters in Mount Vernon at risk.
Yeah.
The blame was on the controller.
I told you, the controller is an important role. I mean, it's the controller is her actions in that office constantly blocking funding is the equivalent of someone having a stroke repeatedly, daily. It's hard for you to, regain your motor functions. Some strokes are deadly. And the lifeblood of a city is the flow of dollars through the operation. And it's a shame. In my opinion, it's a crime what has been allowed to happen because, the governor received a complaint from my office in the law department about the controller, and they have officially ignored it. I believe it's a crime that the state of New York, specifically the Attorney General's office, has completely ignored all the financial issues that have been raised. I mean, think about it. They investigated my government. So they've been watching this behavior play out in real time. And if I'm mayor now, I would say, well, then New York State, you pay the bill. Everything that got broke, you pay for it to be fixed because you let it happen. That's what should happen to protect our taxpayers. But guess what? It's clear, and this is why I say the conspiracy against me is real, is because they only focused on me. They didn't focus on anything else, just me. The campaign issue that should have been dealt with at the Board of Elections, but it was not. And we're not going to go into that. If you want to, we can. But I'm just telling you that if I were treated fairly and had due process, my issue would have been resolved at the Board of Elections. But I was subject to a whole different treatment. So they investigated the government of Mount Vernon for 4 years and only came up with me. Meanwhile, you hear the issues. The fire truck is broken. You got retirees not getting their benefits and their payments. You got people that we service and pay their rent for getting evicted. This is before COVID because the dollars ain't flowing. I don't know what to say other than Black lives don't matter to those in high power.
Mayor, when you were the mayor, I interviewed you multiple times. And one of your quotes was, Mount Vernon is moving forward.
Yep.
Is Mount Vernon moving forward still?
Right now we're stuck. And we're not going to get unstuck until we get the systemic issues structured. That structure will come on November 3rd when everybody votes for Biden and Kamala Harris to be president, but also when they vote for the charter revision, which is on the back of the ballot, because those revisions are going to require the comptroller to come forward with all the finances every 3 to 4 months. That is a big deal, huge deal. And we need that to happen in a major way.
Now, we have to conclude the interview, but I wonder if there is anything that you would like to bring up. Something that I just watched in.
I think we covered a lot, and I'd love to come back and talk again. There's a lot to go over, but it was exactly 1 year ago when we had an interview very similar to this. And I told you about all the issues that are going to play out. And so far, they've played out. And right now, I know that Mount Vernon is in a tough position. I just hope that the taxpayers do not get taken advantage of. I hope that the city does not declare bankruptcy. I hope the city does not allow itself to be taken over by the state of New York. We've already had a lot of our assets and our prized possessions, our jewels, taken command of by the county. I'm talking about Memorial Field. I think that it's a major mistake to have a turf field. I think it's going to lead to a lot of injuries. You already see NFL athletes complaining about turf at, professional football stadiums. We need grass for our kids. Memorial Field was always grass, and I think it's a betrayal to put turf there. But nonetheless, there are a lot of things that we can go into. I just know that for Mount Vernon to move forward, we have to take a step on November 3rd to vote for those charter revisions to revive Mount Vernon and help us rise.
Now, Mayor, I just received a private message asking me to ask you if you would do a self-criticism of yourself based on the things that you did or didn't do while you were mayor. What would that be?
I worked too hard. I didn't enjoy enough of the privilege to be mayor. And what I mean by that is I worked very hard to get the food program going. I worked very hard to recruit and convince people to join the administration to do, in effect, the vision that I had. But I didn't get enough time, and this is what I regret, is spending with people and sitting down and just talking. Forget the business side of the city. I spent a lot of time working on putting structure around problems. And I think that's the biggest reflection that I have, is that I wish I would have spent more time just talking with people. I mean, I made it a point to go out in the streets and talk to people on a weekly basis, but I wish I did more of that.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank
you. Until next time, and let's make these more often, just 30 minutes or 60 minutes with Yonkers Voice. And you can talk about the things that you feel are important for the city. You will take the criticism, you will take the support.
Yeah, and I'll just end on one final thing. Everybody wash your hands, wear your mask. And hopefully we get rapid testing out, because I'd love to talk to you next time about rapid testing and how important it is to have a real strategy around testing for COVID so that we can keep ourselves open and not shut.
So wearing masks saves lives.
That's right.
Thank you, sir. And until next time.
You got it. Bye.